And now finally the hands, which I totally stole the idea on how to make them from Mr. Bulgarov. He did the ones that I saw in Moy, but we can do them here too. So initially I'm gonna model the joint mechanism. Maybe it can have an engine inside or something that moves the whole finger. And I don't know, but it really screams at me that it's like a Bulgarov design. But this only happens because when he released his first videos on YouTube, like the one with the slot, I used to look at that and just try to model everything like him, because it was the first time I saw someone modeling without caring about topology, without caring to create quads only. And that made me so excited because I didn't really wanted to learn how to model properly. I still like to draw. I cared more about just creating shapes. So he was the one that kind of showed me that it's possible. You don't need to be a rocket scientist to do modeling. I have I have had some attempts to learn modeling before in college, and but I was trying to learn it the right way for creating games and stuff. So uh, that really didn't stick out with me. So now I'm creating a negative shape so I can cut out. So this other part looks like it's nicely done. And here box cutter to make that tiny engine fit in there without collapsing into anything. And I just love parenting and moving, then rotating stuff. Here I'm using the unfuck tool from Mech machine. Seriously, I don't know where I would have been without all these add-ons. Here I'm just cloning stuff. Once you make a finger, you just clone it and then that's it. Here a joint guard, a tiny one for to protect the moving parts. And I'm gonna parent it to the joint too, so it's gonna move at the same time. Here I clone the fingers, but shouldn't have because I haven't finished the finger. But I'm kind of trigger happy sometimes. I just want to see how things look like. And I tried. And here I think I'm gonna assign a new material so I can see the volume breakup a bit better. And I think I said it before, but if you go in the cyclist render mode here at the top in the middle, then in the material, if you add the material to your object, then you're gonna have an option called the viewport color, and that's how you assign a different color so you can see how your materials are gonna look like, well, roughly at least. Again, I cloned the fingers, but it wasn't the time because I'm gonna add some rubber insides for more grip. But I guess I'm just testing here to see how things fit together. Also, I've modeled this hand here with just 4 fingers, but later on I'm gonna add a 5th one because it feels like it's too thin. Using box cutter to add like a drawing, and then I'm gonna transform that drawing into a mesh. I did it twice because sometimes I don't know how I do it, but I right click and that cancels the operation. It's like I think my fingers are too heavy and they just click. Adding another gray box to subtract it from the palm. I don't know if you noticed, but maybe the mesh is not as clear as it can be right now. It doesn't really show how the volumes are going on together, and that's because I don't have ambient occlusion on, and I find that quite useful in Blender to have on in order to see the shapes better. This in 2.79, because in 2.8 they made some magic in there and every viewport material looks amazing. And on top of that you can activate a lot of other shit that makes it even better. I think one of them is cavity or curvature, I don't remember. And it's gonna generate some sort of effect that shows transition. But in here, as you can see, it's pretty flat. So once I will be done with the hand, I'm gonna export it back into the other Blender session and just apply the mirror modifier, and that's it. I don't know if I said this in this tutorial so far. I remember saying it in the one that I it crashed, but you can open up like multiple Blender instances, and you can just keep your heavy stuff in one Blender, like all the high res, that so you don't have a slow viewport, and then just copy paste stuff in the other one, and it's amazing. Here I'm adding the rubber, and again I'm deleting the the fingers because I shouldn't have added them. This is a learning experience for me too. I'm definitely learning what mistakes I'm doing over and over again. So maybe it's a good idea if you guys make this exercise and you record yourselves as you're doing things and then rewatch yourself. I use a VLC media player, and if you press on the brackets, you can speed up the video. That's how I'm recording this right now. I think close bracket is sped up and open bracket speed down. So you could rewatch yourself and analyze what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong, where you can improve next time, and then make a journal where you write these things. So you make a commitment that, okay, so far I did these mistakes, but from now on I'm gonna not repeat them. Anyway, here I'm parenting everything to the palm. So every finger has its top parent as at the how would I say, at the knuckle area, and then I selected all those knuckles and then I parented them with the palm. So now I can move the entire hand. Okay, and now I apply the mirror with the empty as a mirror object, and then I Ctrl L and link to all the objects, the modifiers. And when you see me spinning the fingers, I select the parent that's responsible for what I want to spin. And as you can see, the first time it doesn't spin right. That's because Blender spins in the world axis first, I think, and then you need to confirm to Blender like, okay, I want this to spin in the Z axis, so you might need to press Z twice in order for it to function. That's how you go into local mode, for example. Here I'm modeling the headlights. Again, I was planning for it to function, maybe they can spin. Very simple shapes. Booleaning. I'm gonna use this part as I separated it firstly so I can assign a different material to it. You can assign a different material to it anyway, even though it's in a closed object, but I would rather have it on a separate object. So I'm gonna skip forward because it's like a long video for such a simple part. After I was done modeling it, I realized that I don't like it how it looks from far away. It looked too tiny and kind of repeated twice. So I just beefed it up a bit and kept only one copy of it. And then I put it somewhere else on the Mech too. I try to imagine where it makes sense to put it. So I put here on the leg because I thought, okay, maybe he needs to see forward. Here I'm adding the human for the chair. So you should have done this right in the beginning of the tutorial. Without trying to model the human with the modifier, with the skin modifier. It would have been so much easy. So just go to Window and Power Pose, and it's gonna open up this menu. So whenever you select, you have these control points, and if you left click and drag up and down and left to right, it's gonna give you one action, and if you right click on the same point, it's gonna give you a different action. I don't know what they do by heart because I always just go in there and then I remember how to use it. But yeah, it's pretty easy. So once you have your pose, just export this as an OBJ and then import it in your scene, and you're done. Okay, I just scaled it, put it in there, make sure that it kind of looks right. And here I decide to add the fourth finger. And yeah, I'm much happier now with the thickness of the hands. It's kind of annoying me. And here, super shitty technique, but it works, so who cares? I just cloned that part, Shift D to clone it, P to separate it, and then I remeshed it and added a new material. So I'm gonna make his shirt the same way. I'm pretty sure there is a lasso selection tool, but I never use it, so I tried it the hard way, so I selected with box. Again, Shift P, separated, not Shift P, selected, Shift D, P to separate, then extrude along normals, and there you go, you have what you need. Here I'm trying to integrate better the frame I don't know what I do without cylinders or boxes. And here I'm starting to add some oh, apparently I'm adding just some weird mechanical connection points, maybe structure parts. But yeah, I'm gonna skip ahead because it's not super important. Very easy stuff to do. Here I'm adding the gear shifters, or whatever you want to call them, with the skin trick. And then I'm adding here a box that is supposed to be the hub of that. Alright, I think here the right video skipped, but we're gonna go back and create the rest of the hub for the driver. So here I'm modeling a hook, and the way I'm changing the size of the skin thing is like with Ctrl A. I select a vertex, I hit Ctrl A, and then I drag from left to right, and it changes the size. And for this, I just googled a hook, like an industrial hook, and I found a shape that kind of looked like this. So I was like, fine, this is what I'm gonna model. I'm not gonna reinvent the wheel. Here I tried to make it look more low res, but I didn't really like it, so I decided to undo. I hit a few times relax and space from loop tools, so it's more smooth. I kind of extruded here to few pieces, so I'm gonna undo and re-extrude kind of half of a cylinder. And there you go, we have the hook. And like every kit bash piece, I'm gonna take advantage of this. First of all, I'm gonna save it somewhere, and then I'm gonna multiply it everywhere as I think fit. But this one, I think I only put it in 2 places. But apparently not now. And by the way, I made it past this point when I recorded the previous one. So re-seeing the same thing again for a second time. And probably is not the final time either, because I'm gonna re-watch to see if everything is alright, if I need to cut something. It just makes me crazy. That's why I don't like to make tutorials. So yeah, as you can see, like a video skipped because our guy has a t-shirt, has the seat belts and some more details on in there. Here I'm gonna skip because I know I did a mistake. I just picked up too many edges and I inserted them in there, and they looked ugly, so I ended up just with 2. Here I'm trying to add more details, but for some reason Box Cutter was acting up on me. But it's not the plugin's fault, probably it's my fault because I was doing something wrong. It usually works super nice. I was trying to cut to the cursor, but I ended up doing it in a different way. Okay, so now I'm gonna take this part and I'm gonna put it in Blender 2.8, and I'm gonna have fun with the new box cutter that's so much more awesome. You basically just do a cut, and then if you control click, it repeats that cut. Here you have settings at the top, but if you want to learn how to use it, just go on Master Zion's YouTube channel. He has video for box cutter new users. Alright, so all I did was hit Ctrl C and Ctrl V from basically two different softwares, and it works perfect. At this point, I think the model starts to look pretty nice, but I still see problems with it that I try to solve. Like one of them was like here in this back area, there was a big hole because I didn't add anything. And you can see like this is not attached to anything. And also doesn't really work super nice. I think it still needs something here to make this piece strong and structure wise, but it's not really visible. I just wanted something in there for the moment to trick the eye. This helmet, super simple, like I didn't care about it at all. So yeah, I think now we're gonna go back to the video where I model all these parts, the buttons. And the seat belt. I try to regroup everything so it's nice. Alright, I broke up the recording a bit so I don't end up again with nothing. So now I decided to readjust the chair because its design wouldn't permit for those things to exist there. And through those things I mean the shifting gears. So now I wanted to clone the back seat too. So now I put it into place and I cloned that bottom part because I wanted to extract it so the lever can move. There you go, it works. I imagine that's some sort of a pedal trigger. It's not very clear to me how this mech works though. It doesn't look like it has enough controls in order to operate. But again, I didn't really think of that properly. I spent quite some time trying to organize these mirrors so they make sense. By the way, a very useful shortcut is rotating, but in the way as in if you press twice R, it's gonna start to spin around its center somehow, the object. Or I don't even know how to explain it, you're gonna see. But I use that a lot when I want to make my objects be rotated in the right way. So here I made that skin mesh, I made it into a polygon mesh with Alt C and choose I forgot what it says, but it's the second option, mesh from curve or something like that. And that makes everything into polygon. So now you won't be able to edit the how it curves and how it goes around. And like that, I installed some polygons, which I'm transforming into like a weird joystick. That this guy can use. And okay, what you just saw me doing there, modifying the thickness of the whole stick. I selected everything and pressed Alt S in order to scale towards the center of the object. And through the center, I don't mean the center, it's like it's somehow the normals combined with the center. So yeah, in a perfect world, I would make a screenshot of this and I would make a really cool handle design. But yeah, like I wasn't looking to invest like 3 months of my life into this. So I'm just faking details here. I wish I was more organized with the materials. Even though we have only 4 materials, I kind of cloned from everywhere. So that created a lot of weird clones that later on is gonna bite me in the ass because I have to reorganize the entire material in the scene in order to make it efficient while rendering. So I think the solution to have a good material mm, like organization, it would be to create a few objects on the side whom you sample each time you want to assign a new material. So I pulled out his shirt a bit. I added a polygon which I'm extruding in order to transform it into a belt. I use a thick modifier and then subsurf. Now I'm making boots out of the pants. I separated those and then I made them. I think I'm gonna give them a new material. Or not. I don't know what I did there, but it was ugly. And now I'm doing the helmet. I made a sphere and then I select some of the edges and I extrude. This guy is so ugly. Here I was exploring with a more sci-fi look, but nah, I was like, it's enough. Okay, we're almost getting ready to the end of the modeling part. Here I'm just looking around, trying to find more places to add detail. Try to give the illusion that these objects were assembled, and then that they can open. I really hope this tutorial will help you, especially people that don't use Blender or don't know any 3D, because learning some 3D really changed a lot of things for me. I feel more confident when I'm supposed to design something. I feel I can give something that has good quality and can be used as a gameplay asset instead of just like a prop. And if you have friends that can't afford to buy it, feel free to give it to them. Probably it's gonna end up on torrents too. I'm fine with that, but yeah, it's like I would appreciate if it wouldn't end up on the torrents for a while. I just remember when I started and I was basically torrenting a lot of stuff, but a lot of 2D stuff. And yeah, I'm super grateful for those guys. I later on bought stuff from them, so the ones that helped me, so I kind of returned the favor. But yeah, if you can't afford it, find it another way. Here you're seeing me using parts that I randomly modeled as a practice. They're just random parts that I thought like, okay, let's try to add them. I really wanted to add something in that negative pelvis shape, but I didn't add anything except that thing that looks like a pee-pee. But that's maybe a charger port. You charge this mech through the dick. And I almost made it through an entire tutorial without saying anything embarrassing or stupid, but you get a bit of me with every tutorial. Okay, so here I did a final paint over, and like I didn't model this entirely without knowing. Sometimes I would test things out so I wouldn't record too much stuff and not make any sense. So I talked with my wife, and she thought like these shapes are very distracting. So instead, we decided to make only one. And here again, I struggled a lot. Instead of just adding a circle and fucking extruding half of it to the right, like I'm doing right now. Much simpler. Instead of extracting previous shapes, like Why would you do that? So I'm kind of trying to match the thing that I didn't paint over. And I agree, it looks more clean and less distracting, I would say. Also, on the knee pads, I'm gonna do some boolean because I noticed when when I was rendering that the faces were really faceted because I didn't had enough geometry. So I cloned the part. I made a simple drawing and then I beveled that. So I would have a nice curvature. I choose space from there so I can make the mesh more like equidistant. And I also apply this subdivision modifier so I don't end up with any more crappy things. So and now I remeshed. One thing I wasn't considering here was that I was remeshing for two sides. Like the mirror has been applied and the remesher is trying to work two objects. So if you're doing this, be careful, delete the other one, and because probably you're gonna get better results. Like see, I have the other one that the software is trying to remesh, and I didn't pay attention. But it worked out in the end. I just mirrored the other one. And here I added more holes because I noticed some detail, like some holes in there could be cool. Also, this shape was too low res, and when it was in Octane, it would look like shit. So I'm doing that trick where I'm selecting the sharp edges and then I'm creasing them, applying a subsurf modifier, and OpenVDB remesh them. And this shape too was also making had some faceted looks. So again, I did some editing and beveled a few edges, then VDB remeshed it, and it looked okay. And if I'm not mistaken, this might be the end of the modeling. I don't think I'm gonna do much more. I just put another subdivision on this with the same technique, so I can remesh it so it looks super clean. I kind of lost that edge there, but it's fine. And here this is not necessary. If we're gonna render this in cycles, still it's gonna understand the materials anyway. But I'm gonna reorganize my scene. I'm gonna make the materials named properly. Again, this would have taken me so much less time if I properly organize my scene from the beginning, and that's the thing I'm gonna keep in mind from now on. And yeah, like when you click on one of those materials, it tells you in where it appears. So here I assigned it into a group, so that way it appeared in here. So I selected all the yellow parts and I separated them. And I'm just trying to find all the meshes that have this property with multiple materials. And I'm selecting the cables and I'm saying, okay, now rename this. And if you control click on here on these things, you're gonna be able to rename them. You also need to come here and delete, like on that forklift in the back, I had 3 materials, so you need to delete the ones that you don't need, otherwise they will remain in the scene. So again, this is batch operations. I think it's a free plugin. I don't remember if I bought it. I know for 2.8 it's for sale right now, so you can buy it at a discount. But I think for 2.79 it's free. And yeah, you can organize your scene. You can just find based on modifiers, based on materials, and then you can merge certain things. You just save a lot of clicks. I'm also moving things on a separate layer sometimes. Here I fucked up. I didn't apply the modifier on this chair, so I need to go in there and select the edges that I want to remove, and then hit Ctrl L to select the entire mesh with selections. And I will do it twice because I'll forget to apply the modifier again. Okay, renaming all the materials. You can rename here. You click on the object and you just see I just rename here. Okay, there are some materials that I couldn't remove. I don't know where they are. What are they? It's just stuff that it's somewhere in the file, but somehow I lost it. And here again I'm using a technique that I saw at Vitaly. He added 3 separate planes. You're gonna add a material with a different name on each one, and you're gonna use them as lights in Octane, and for this it's gonna be used as background. And you don't see me using here, but I didn't record that part, but a friend of mine suggested that I add a small geometry behind the Mech where I want it to pop out. So I created some small cubes that I set up as lights in Octane, and I made them invisible for the camera. I dragged the slider with opacity down, so it kind of puts some rim lights in some places, so that's nice. I think I'm still grouping some materials just to make sure. And as you can see, again, I fucked up that. And I scale negatively and I spin it on the red axis. Probably it was the local red axis, I don't know. And I flip the normals after. Because I merged every yellow part into a single subtool, every shiny steel into a single thing. So in Octane I just have a few objects that I need to assign materials to. And here you see it takes kind of a long time, but I just exported the Mech. I just selected everything in the Mech, and I choose export FBX selected objects. Here there was a box called selected objects. So I did that for the lights and for the ground. And here you right click, you choose import, you choose your FBX, then you right click, choose a geometry group, right click import to import the lights. I put a placement node for the lights too, in order to be able to rotate them. I imported the ground too with right click import FBX. And also you need a render target. And all this geometry you plug into the pink hole. And here somewhere. And here, this black ball with an eyedropper, you can just click on your mesh and wherever you had a different material, it's basically gonna take you on that material. So see that this Mech and Driver FBX has a lot of holes. So each part is an object with a different material. So it's gonna take you automatically in there. Here I was using some textures that I generated with B2M. It's this icon here, Substance Painter B2M. You can basically load the JPEG and create PBR maps out of it. It's very simple. So yeah, I was just plugging in the specular map. Then I would set the UV transform. I would lower the S, SX and XY in order to make the texture smaller. And the projection I chose box. So I did that a lot for each element. And for the lights, you set up a diffuse material and you have to activate black box in where? Let me see. Let me pause for a bit because I'm here on the lights. So you have to, into emission, choose black body, and then temperature is gonna be the temperature of your light, and what else? Double-sided if maybe the light is not flipped in the right direction. And if you see opacity, if you lower that, I don't see where it is right now. Oh, it's here. It's up, like up above the emission. Opacity, if you lower that to 0, it's not gonna appear in the render. So it's gonna emit light, but it's not gonna be visible. So that's what I use for those rim lights. And yeah, it's pretty much repeating the same thing over and over here. I downloaded the HDR from HDRiheaven.com. They have a lot of free ones and very good quality. And I believe all of them actually they're free. Okay, I kind of like this dark industrial look. So even though I'm adding textures, I'm kind of desaturating things too. And I wanted to save the actual texturing for Photoshop because that's how I do my texturing. I just take this kind of render and I start overlaying rust or scratches in Photoshop because I get more unique results. So I'm just playing with the settings. Here on live DB you have materials that you can just drag and drop in your scene. Very cool. I didn't really figure out how to use them because sometimes they look like shit, but probably it's because I don't know how to operate with them. I'm trying to find a good angle. Here I took a break and then I reopened the scene and I try to see if I can improve the lighting a bit. Because it was a bit too dark. Here in this button here you just activate post-processing effects. It's gonna add lens flares and shit like that. And I changed the resolution, and when I'm gonna be satisfied with this, I'm just gonna click on this button with a picture and an arrow, a green arrow, and I'm gonna save the image. And that's basically what I did. And now I am in Photoshop, and the tools I use are very simple. I basically use the lasso tool to make a selection, and then I hit Ctrl J to clone, and I press Ctrl U to go to hue and saturation. So now I made this darker, and here I'm gonna use a flat brush to create like a decal that I'm gonna add on the shoulder. I'm gonna skip ahead because it's kind of boring. And once I'm done, I convert this into a smart object, and now the resolution won't be ruined ever. So I can transform it and scale it as many times as I want. It won't be a problem. 09 is the birthday of my wife, so I can add it everywhere. Again, I transform this into a smart object. I'm trying to keep the same alignment. I don't know if I did a good job. It still feels like this one is a bit too low and too small compared to this one. Here I double click on the smart object and it opens this so I can edit it. So I can change a bit the design. Yeah, now it's a bit better compared to the other one, but still not not close enough. So now I just take textures, Alt click on them with the black arrow. If you press V key, you get the black arrow, so you can clone them. And then I just erase where I don't want them. This texture kind of makes everything look warm. These are some textures that I got on Gumroad somewhere, sometime. They're very nice and very high res. So here I use the layer blending modes. I'm gonna skip back a bit and I'm gonna slow down the video. So if you Alt and click on these arrows, you're gonna break them and then it's gonna blend differently here. So in order to access that menu, you just double click on the layer. And whenever you have a layer that's like that, you have this weird blending mode icon there. And then I group them so they're less. Here I tried to do some shenanigans, but it didn't work. I tried to flatten that and then use it to create a selection, but I think I deleted in the end because it was like not working properly. I had a layer adjustment on top of everything because it became too saturated and it annoyed me. Alright, I'm looking for some dust textures. Trying to find a mode that will give me a good result. And I'm adjusting the levels on the texture itself, so it kind of shows up better. Alright, this is some heavy duty scratches and rust. And here I'm using this blending mode in order to make everything that I don't want disappear. But as you can see, this picture, in this case, it kills my highlights, so I need to be careful and delete around the lights. Everything looks a bit puffy right now, as in not sharp enough. I don't know if puffy is a word, but we're gonna save that with some camera raw filter. Here I'm manually painting some rust stains. I'm trying to add texture, especially in the areas where there are a lot of highlights, because in the shadows they won't be visible anyway. See, here I use some brush with some texture to make some chipped paint effect. I think I got an idea to add some clouds, but I'm not doing it right now. Scratching the logos a bit. I really like this brush to add the scratches and the wear and tear. And I see now on the knee pad there's from a photo, it remained some artifact here. I don't think I deleted it. It's bugging me out right now. So yeah, here I'm adding some dust or some fog, whatever you want to call it. I add it everywhere and then I drop the opacity. It gets more like changes the vibe and the mood of the whole piece. Probably it's a brush from Jama or someone. I kind of have used only Hannes's brushes in the past years and a few other brush sets, and one of them that I installed was Jama's when he was doing like kind of 360 paintings. I think I got it from one of those tutorials. And here I'm looking for a more rough texture for the knee pad. playing again with the blending modes. Basically, for what I'm looking is some micro detail that can add to the overall feel of the entire mech, to give him a story, because I feel the texturing actually gives a story to the what you're creating. The way you texture stuff, it's really important. I wish I knew how to do it in 3D efficiently, but I don't, so. Alright, probably I'm gonna go soon in camera raw filter. So this is where we started, and now I'm playing with the layer modes to see if I can find something. Maybe I can bring some lights back, or I don't know. I copy merged everything and open camera raw. And camera raw is super nice because it's like a filter with every filter in Photoshop inside. So here I can just freely transform and not give a fuck. And on the FX tab, I was adding some grain, and in this two triangles tab, I add sharpening. So yeah, a bit of blue kind of worked. Anyway, it's good to do these changes maybe after a small time where you just let the whole thing rest. So because right now probably my eyes were too used from the green, and that's why I liked more a cooler vibe, but it's fine anyway. Now I was adding an edge, and also I remembered about my paint over with the stripes. So I'm bringing them back, and all of a sudden I like this mech even more. And it's just two black lines there. Not that I like this mech a lot. It still has some problems. But yeah, I think I overdid myself compared to other stuff that I done before. And I think I'm gonna add a bit of orange too, as an accent of color some here and there. Manually adding some tiny scratches with a brush with no opacity. The image is like very low res actually. I didn't realize it's so low res. I usually paint at way higher resolutions. Okay, so what I'm doing right now. Oh, I think I'm adding just some tiny particles here and there. And adding that orange gives a nice touch, I think. I didn't add it a lot. I use multiply and a very light color, because multiply, you know what it does, it just makes everything darker. So the trick sometimes with multiply is to use a light color if you just want to change something. And that's it. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next one.